Hey everybody, this is Bob, back again. One of the gunsmiths here at CQT, show you how to install your DeadPoint guide rod and spring assembly in your Glock 42 or 43. The guide rods and springs aren't interchangeable between the two guns. There's some slight differences between them, but the installation process is the same for both. Taking the liberty of clearing the gun and stripping it down to the slide assembly in the frame just to show you how to install the component parts for your DeadPoint guide rod and spring assembly. We're going to start with the frame. You'll need to remove the old takedown lever from the frame assembly. To do that, you'll have to find the pocket for the small coil spring that lives underneath that lever and compress it so that you can press the old takedown lever out to one side, and we'll just set that aside. We'll take the new takedown lever, which has a protrusion on the upper part. That protrusion needs to face the rear of the handgun when installed. Now we're going to start that into the pistol, over the top of the spring, compress the spring downward and just slide it until it finds its center position. Now we're done with the frame. Let's go over to the slide. We're going to remove the factory guide rod and spring assembly, set it aside, and then we're going to go to this small ring. You'll notice that it has a narrower section and a wider section. The narrower section needs to go to the front of the frame. It's simply inserted as a bushing to keep the guide rod spring from overriding the front of the frame. Next, we'll install our battery into the battery compartment. We'll simply remove the cap. It just pries off. It has an O-ring seal. We'll go ahead and insert our battery into the guide rod assembly. Replace our O-ring seal onto the cap. And simply press the cap back into position. Make sure it's seated all the way around. Now, when we install the guide rod assembly into the slide, you'll notice that there's a small protrusion on the face of the cap. That protrusion needs to be closest to the barrel when you reassemble the guide rod into the slide. So we're going to take this assembly, compress the spring, start it into its cup, and simply seat it onto the barrel assembly. So once you have it installed properly, you'll see that that protrusion is resting closest to the barrel, and you'll notice that the light is turned on. It's supposed to be that way, don't worry about it. When you reassemble the pistol, the new takedown lever, which acts as a switch, is going to disconnect the contact. So we're going to go ahead and put the slide back onto the frame and close it back up. You'll notice that the light is turned off. Now, when you the switch, as I described earlier, your takedown lever, if it's pushed to the left, the light will turn on. If it's pushed to the center, the light will turn off, or pushed to the right, the light will turn back on. It's that simple, folks.